What's up, Rebooters worldwide? Noah here, and today I've got a success story that was sent to me from one of our subscribers to share with all of you. And I'm going to read from it today and just comment as we go along, because I think there's a lot to be learned from it. It is more lengthy than a lot of the submissions I get, so this might stretch longer than normal. So if you'd like to, you can just go to my website and download the MP3. I'll link to that in the description below. But if you do that, I expect you to leave a like on this video first, okay? Yeah, just right down there at the like button. You know where it is. Just press it, it'll turn blue. Then you can go download the MP3. Or you can stay here and watch. Without further ado, our brother here is 23 years old, and he's been masturbating since he was around 12 years old. Started out pretty normal, just fantasizing about girls, and maybe looking at a magazine once in a while, or watching something suggestive on TV. When he was 14, he says, "Once I was 14 and in 8th grade is when the addiction really ramped up for me. I still remember finding my first actual porn video on some random PornTube website. I remember the shock and disgust I felt at what I had just seen, and I physically felt dirty and went to take a shower, and I promised myself I wouldn't do that again after the way it made me feel. It was so shocking and gross, yet it also intrigued me in a way I didn't fully understand. However, I found myself going back for more, and from that point on, I never stopped." I had similar experiences for sure. I wasn't disgusted or shocked or made to feel dirty by just regular vanilla porn, but when I was that age, I certainly saw things on the internet that did shock and disgust me. And I wasn't so much ashamed to be using porn because I thought that it was probably normal, and that's what everyone on the internet seemed to be doing. The only time I was ashamed was when my parents came close to catching me, because I knew it wouldn't be something that they would want me doing. He says, "I grew up in a very conservative Christian home where sex was viewed as something for a married couple to have and nobody else. It felt very taboo and an awkward topic for me growing up because my parents censored pretty much anything even remotely sexual. I was never encouraged to date during these early teen years, and more so would be told to just be friends with girls. So naturally, when I found porn, it became my sexual outlet. Every guy I knew at school watched porn, and people would openly talk about it. At first, watching porn felt very forbidden and bad, but after a while, it just seemed normal to me, because everyone else was doing it, and hey, at least I wasn't having sex, right? I didn't grow up in a conservative Christian home. My parents were not particularly religious. I think I went to church like 2 or 3 times on holidays throughout my entire childhood. But even in that home, sex was still a taboo and awkward topic. I think it's not just in Christian homes, it's in our society in general, especially here in the US. It's just something that we're not comfortable talking about, and I'd like to change that. I certainly want to change that when I have kids. And I hope that what I'm doing here can convince some of you to have more open conversations about these things with your family and your friends and your future children too, because they should be aware of what sex is and feel comfortable coming to you and asking questions and not feel ashamed to have a sexuality within that family. Not feel ashamed to come to the adult, to the parents with questions. So that's my hope for the future. "I continued to watch porn as a daily habit from ages 14 to 22. Sure, sometimes I'd miss a few days or a week with no porn, and that was fine. I didn't feel I needed it, but I sure did like it. But there were other times when I would watch porn and masturbate, I think up to 7 times in a day. That's not the highest I've heard. I think the highest I ever went to was maybe 5, but I tended to take a long time each time. Which that was very rare. Typically it was once a day, maybe twice if I was bored or horny. Initially I would just watch the first porn video I saw, but by the last 5 years or so, I would have maybe 10 videos loaded up and find which one I liked the best by skipping around each video and moving on to the next until I had narrowed it down to the exact scene and video I wanted to get off to. Here we see that tolerance rising and his escalation in his porn habits. At first, any old porn would do. It was more than enough to get him aroused, but now he has to seek for that perfect clip to get aroused to and jack off to. My PMO sessions started probably 5 minutes, but by that time I was using multiple tabs, and they would usually be 15 to 20 minutes. So really it wasn't a super extreme thing. I wasn't skipping school or anything important to stay home and watch porn, but that doesn't take away the fact that I was using porn daily. The content I would watch was usually quite vanilla and normal. Not to say I never saw some very disturbing things or grotesque, but generally I just liked your everyday normal couples having sex on film. Last week I made a couple of videos about people escalating to extreme forms of porn, and I don't mean to say that that's going to happen to everyone. A lot of people don't escalate to those deviant or extreme forms of pornography, but still escalate in other ways, using more often, relying on the use for emotional support, needing to open up multiple tabs and compilation videos to find that perfect scene, etc. All throughout high school and beyond, I would use porn as my sexual outlet. I had my first girlfriend when I was 17, and I remember how intense even just kissing her was for me. I would get so horny and rock hard even just holding her hand. But let me tell you, I never had that, because by the time I was 17, 18 and had a girlfriend, I was already desensitized so much and had PIED so much that, it was amazing kissing her, but I never really had much of that rock hard reaction, except maybe for a few moments, and then it would die down. But now that I've quit porn and been off of it for so long, I'm back to that, just holding hands or even having a conversation with a woman I'm attracted to and I feel like there's a connection between us. We're making lots of eye contact and there's that little spark. I can feel myself start to get hard just having a conversation with a girl. And that's awesome. And that's how it should be as a young, virile man. I also recall how badly I wanted to have sex with her, but I was kind of scared to at the same time. But we both talked about it, and I remember getting the condoms and whatnot, but we never ended up following through and eventually broke up after a month or so. Not a very serious relationship by any means. This was a pattern for me. I would get to know a girl, have a month or so long fling, and once they really showed interest in me, I would run away from it. I blame some of that on being raised in the environment I was in with my perceived view that any attraction to the opposite sex was bad or something. But I also attribute this to porn as well. I think it made me judge girls harder once I saw their flaws, and I would easily get turned off and cut the contact with them. So over the years from ages 17 to 20, I had a number of girls who I saw but never seriously dated, nor did I have sex even with these girls who told me they wanted to. Looking back on my life, I can kind of see the same thing. It's like once I get to know a woman, I wouldn't want to be tied down to her. I wouldn't want to commit to her because I had this illusion in my mind that I had just an infinite array of options because I had reinforced that conditioning using so much internet porn. And I would always, get to know a girl and really want her, but I would never really want to be tied down to just that woman. I would always want more, even though I wasn't really getting any because I had PIED. I had my porn after all, and at this point I felt as if I wanted to wait for a girl I really cared about and liked, because none of these girls up to this point really mattered to me, and I never cared much, so I wasn't worried about it. I don't fully remember the first time I noticed symptoms of porn-induced erectile dysfunction, but I can tell you about my first failed sexual contact in the fall of 2013. I had met this girl and started to flirt and to talk to her a lot. We eventually started to hang out, and I went over to her house one night to watch a movie and do sexy things. We watched this movie and made out, cuddled. I had her half naked on top of me, and I remember feeling completely disconnected from her. I was totally unresponsive to this half naked girl on top of me who wanted to have sex. My penis wasn't getting hard whatsoever, nothing. I didn't feel nervous around her, or really any girls that I'd ever been with up to that point, other than maybe the first girlfriend. I hung out with her in the same situation another time or two before coming to the conclusion I simply must not like this girl either. But it was still very bizarre to me that I wasn't getting aroused. I was feeling kind of old, and just like, I wanted to have sex with the right girl, but at this point, being 20 years old, I felt like maybe I should just lose my virginity already. I had turned down too many chances at sex, or not felt horny enough, and it was getting a little old to me. But fuck it, I have porn, right? What's the big deal? There's always another girl around the corner who I will really like and make it happen with. Besides, this girl I was getting sick of anyways, and we didn't click, so I didn't care. I blame that attitude partially on the porn, but then again our personalities really didn't click. The same cycle repeated itself for the next 2.5 years. Every single time I would be with a woman who wished to have sex, I never could get it up under any circumstances. There was never any arousal from me. When I was making out, touching, feeling, seeing these women fully naked right out in front of me, I just would never get hard. I think it was around fall of 2014 when I first tried doing NoFap. I made it 25 days before a relapse and didn't try again after that. I think I had heard of NoFap a year prior, but really knew nothing about it or all the dysfunctions people were suffering from. It was that fall of 2014 when I first noticed my erections with porn were getting weaker. It wasn't terribly bad, but I noticed it. I didn't seem to worry about it too much though. Maybe I was just overdoing it a little or something. By winter of 2015, my boners with porn were only about 50%. I was jerking off with a soft dick, basically. Now in hindsight, I can't believe I let it get to that point. When it gets to that point, you know you have severe PIED. I never even got to that point. I always had, at least halfway decent, 80% erections while using porn, even though I was completely unable to have sex with a real woman. But I've worked with a lot of people who got to the point where they're like 50% hard or less and still jerking off to porn and orgasming because they relied on that dopamine hit. They relied on that high they got from masturbation, even though obviously their body was completely worn out and their sexual system was completely desensitized. I first remember considering PIED in the summer of 2015, and I tried NoFap again for around 25 days, and also ended up relapsing then. I wasn't fully convinced PIED could be a real thing, and even if it was, all I had to do was quit porn, and I wasn't going to do that until I met a girl I liked. Then I could stop the porn, and I'd be able to have sex just fine. At least that's what I told myself. I get this sometimes. It's like guys don't want to stop using porn until they have their girlfriend that they want to be with. They want to have that unlimited sexual pleasure on tap for as long as they can before they meet that girl that they want to have sex with. And that is just self-defeating. I mean, not only are there so many more symptoms of long-term consistent porn use than just PIED, I mean, brain fog, lack of ambition, desensitization, emotional numbness, a lack of ability to connect with others in relationships, and on and on and on. But also, once you find that girl, if you need 6-9 months to recover from PIED after that, who knows? Maybe it just won't work out because you won't connect with her sexually and she won't understand, and it just won't work out because you decided to use porn for as long as you could before meeting her. And I've seen it happen where they tried doing that and they met that one and it didn't work because they hadn't quit the porn beforehand. By winter of 2015-2016, I moved out of my home state to work at a ski resort and snowboard all winter. This opened me up to a lot more potential sexual partners. Once in back-to-back days, I had 2 girls I had just recently met both tell me they would love to have sex with me. I was flattered but also disgusted with myself because I had been with both of these girls, same story as always, making out, cuddling, getting them off, using my finger, etc., but I still never got hard. And those are amongst another couple of girls I had also engaged in those sexual activities with, but these 2 girls had told me to my face how much they would have liked to have sex with me, and I was totally incapable of doing this. It was driving me fucking insane. This was this past February. I started to really think about quitting the porn and masturbating because I was 22 years old and still a virgin, and my penis wasn't working, and I really had no answers as to why. That's another thing. If you wait until you meet that one to quit, then you're going to miss out on these opportunities for intimate connection. They might not be something that you're going to pursue for the rest of your life, a woman you're going to marry, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be a beautiful experience between you two if you had quit the porn months before, as you should have. I first stumbled across your videos in March. I believe the video was about how long it will take for me to reboot, where you answered that question for someone and went over their porn and sexual history and tried to make as educated as a prediction as you could. I remember driving up the mountain, listening to it in my car and just being like, damn, this seems like it could really be something. I looked into the PIED and NoFap quite a bit more and went on a small streak of a couple of weeks, relapsed and fell off the wagon again. This was on my mind throughout the rest of March and April, but I was pretty busy at the time and just not ready to really put in the time or effort, and didn't totally have my aha moment yet either. It was May 13th when I realized, hey, I haven't watched porn or masturbated in a few days. This seems like a great time to really try to quit this porn habit and see what progress I can make. So I found your website, addictedtointernetporn.com, surfed Your Brain Rebalanced, Your Brain on Porn, the Gary Wilson TED Talk, Reddit's NoFap subreddit, etc. All great resources. I found your book to be the single most important piece of info that put this whole journey of quitting porn for good into motion. I remember sitting there reading your story and seeing all these similarities and how it affects us, and just exclaiming to myself, holy shit, this is fucking me! I had to stop at times and just look away, shake my head, and take deep breaths because I couldn't believe how much this was all adding up for me finally. Even as I write this right now, I have tears welling up in my eyes because I finally discovered what was truly going on. I had finally realized just how bad this porn addiction was for me personally, mentally, physically, socially, really all across my life. It affected me. I hadn't had a real relationship. I had never been in love. I had avoided so many of these things and used porn as a substitute for so many years. Well, I'm really glad that my book could be that aha moment for you. That's what I wrote it for. I wrote it thinking, what did I need to read when I was 18 and had PIED and was experiencing that for the first time? So I wrote that book. And if you haven't read it yet, you've got no excuse because I give it away for free as a PDF. Just go subscribe to my newsletter on my website. You can get it for free. And if you're someone who watches a lot of my videos or whatever and think that, oh, you know all about this, well, it's not really the case. I put a lot more information into the book, a lot more resources. So go read that and reboot your life. Do yourself a favor. From that day on, I knew I never wanted to watch porn again. I knew I could never be happy watching porn. I would never have a girlfriend I loved if I kept watching porn. All these things I longed for but never had because of my porn usage for so many years. I was very scared yet hopeful during this first week or two. I felt so happy I had figured it out. Yet I realized the severity of my PIED. I felt like, okay, it's going to take some time for me to heal. I assumed about 6 months. Once I got to about a month of quitting, I hadn't noticed any changes and my dick felt so dead. It was horrifying to have this. That's also when I realized I would probably need a very long time. I fully assumed I would need 9 to 12 months to recover based on my past usage and symptoms of PIED versus other people's stories I had read. It was mortifying to think of all the years I had wasted watching porn, to know I would probably need another year, perhaps, just to even get to the point of where I could be sexually active. I entered the flat line for a few weeks in June, as well as July, where I felt incredibly depressed. I doubted the process. I doubted if I even had PIED, and maybe it was something much worse. I doubted I could ever even be healed of PIED. I wondered if I had permanently damaged my penis by not using lube, or just simply years of porn had hurt my dick. I felt genderless. I knew I was a man, but I felt as if my dick was gone. I couldn't feel it between my legs. It was small, even smaller than normal shriveled up size from me masturbating too much. It was cold to the touch. I had no desire for porn or sexually, but I still wanted to be with girls. So this is what we know as the flat line, often accompanied by feelings of depression and anxiety and such, withdrawal symptoms, and often people's penises shrivel up and feel like they're really numb and dead for a while. I made a video about this a long time ago. It's called, Will My Penis Be Shriveled and Numb Forever? The Flat Line, or something like that. Look it up if you're interested. All this was so intense to go through, especially alone. The only person I told was my brother and a therapist who I really worked well with. It wasn't until July when I went through another flatline that pushed me over the edge. I woke up one day just deep in the flatline, so scared, so alone that I simply couldn't handle it anymore. I called both my mom and dad and told them both all about what was going on with me. I cried on the phone to both of them about all the pain I had gone through and tried to explain this whole thing to them. I had made them aware of my sexual dysfunction the month or two prior, but never disclosed the reason out of fear. They were both very supportive, understanding, and happy I told them. It meant a lot to me to have their support and to no longer have to hide that secret of mine that I had been hiding my porn use for years from them. That's something, I've said it time and time again. If you watch my videos, you know, but it's so vital to talk to people in your life about this. You don't have to share your story with the world like I have, but it just lifts such a weight off your chest and your shoulders to just open up, allow yourself to be vulnerable, share these secrets. You might think that people will think you're a freak or shun you for this, but in my experience, that very, very rarely happens. And wouldn't you rather show someone who you really are and be rejected than be accepted for a fake front that you put up to people? Everyone has these problems, everyone makes mistakes, and most people understand that, and they admire the courage you show in talking about your own mistakes, your own vulnerabilities. I wish I had kept a daily journal just to chronicle what exactly I felt each day and the state of my recovery, but I didn't. During this time of the first month to second month of quitting, the only change I really saw was my flaccid penis had probably gotten at least 50% bigger and wider. It was no longer shriveled and small by mid-July. I still hadn't had any wet dreams or morning wood or boners any time. I actually hadn't had any proper strong morning wood in well over a year. If I had morning wood, any time in that last year or more of watching porn, it was so weak and shitty, I don't even know if you could call it morning wood. I finally made it to 90 days on, I believe, August 11th. I was very proud when I got to this point and was starting to settle into this lifestyle and accepting I could really accomplish this no matter how long it was going to take me. That is the mindset you have to be in. No one can be able to tell you how long it's going to take to recover from PIED or any of the other porn-induced symptoms or to get over the cravings. You just have to have that mindset of, I'm in this for the long haul. No matter how long this takes, it's worth it, and I'm doing it all the way. It was only a week or a few days after getting to my 90-day mark when I experienced my first good morning wood in well over a year. I was so ecstatic when this happened. It was probably 80% hard, which was just insane for me. I got this 2 out of 3 days during that week, and it was just awesome. My first real sign of progress I could physically see, and first erections in months. Hell, first decent erection in probably a year. During this reboot process, I had been with 2 girls. Once was only just 2 weeks into my reboot. I had run into this girl I knew, but hadn't seen for a year or so. And we went over to her house, myself and a couple of each our friends, and we drank some that night. Went out and ended up back at her house. Things happened between us. We made out, went to her room. She wanted to have sex, but of course I made an excuse and turned her down because I knew I wasn't able to. Even when she was on top of me with her top naked. I still felt like I was a little bit more responsive, but barely. Probably just a placebo, honestly. It wasn't long after that I met this girl who I was immediately attracted to. We barely talked this first night we met, and she ended up leaving for her home country in South America for a month, so I didn't see her again until the end of June, early July. We ended up really clicking, hanging out pretty often. I really liked this girl. I felt an actual mental connection with her on top of the fact that she was absolutely gorgeous, charming, really smart and funny. She was just the ideal girl in my mind. It was stressful for me because I knew I couldn't be a sexual partner for her for really probably at least another 4 months, but I didn't even know how long. It strained us right away. After hanging out a few times and keeping it to cuddling, making out, and just talking, listening to music, and enjoying our company, it was getting obvious sex was the next thing to happen. One night we were going back to her room, and I was stupid enough to just keep escalating things. I felt like I should just give her oral sex, finger, and get her off that way. I started to do this for her when she reached for my crotch, and I immediately shut her down and just acted like I didn't want that. She looked so hurt and confused and didn't understand why I was like that. She said nobody had ever done that to her before. I went to bed next to her feeling so ashamed and bad. The next morning I woke up and quickly snuck out, even though she stirred in her bed to get me to say good morning, but I just pretended I thought she was asleep and left. She got really upset over this and just strained us further. You think? Yeah, I would be upset if, I wanted to say goodbye to a woman who had spent the night with me and she just pretended that she didn't hear me and just left. Things would go up and down the next couple of weeks in July. Sometimes it would be great hanging out for more than a day straight, but then something small would happen, usually related to sex or whatever, and just make things weird. This is what's going to happen if you keep secrets like this in a relationship. If you're avoiding sex and you don't tell her why, it's going to make things weird. She's not going to understand, and it's definitely going to drive a wedge between you. That's why I always recommend, after you're with a girl and you've been on a couple of dates, maybe you've started making out or whatever, or cuddling, and you know that she's someone you want to pursue something with, I always recommend to tell her everything about this journey, about what you're going through. That way she can decide if she wants to be there right with you and support you, and she can make a great partner in this journey for you. And if on the off chance she decides that this isn't what she wants, that it's too much for her to handle, then that's fine. At least you had the bravery and the courage to open up and show her who you are and say, this is me, accept it or not. But most times, she'll admire you for opening up, and she'll want to support you. She'll want to be with you because she likes you for you. She likes to be with you. She has fun with you. I wanted to explain to her so badly what was going on, but it was such a difficult thing for me to fathom doing because it seems so weird that, I watch too much porn and my dick is broken now. I didn't know how to have that conversation. So I didn't tell her the full truth. I told her I was having trouble getting aroused, probably due to stress. I had been assaulted with a broken jaw a month prior and had my phone stolen. Jaw required surgery and was wired shut for another month. And I even told her I was a virgin. She kind of thought it was a mental block, but I knew that wasn't the case at all. Anyway, she just said, oh well, there are pills you can take to help with that. Little did she know I had even seen my doctor and explained the situation, didn't mention the porn but said I wasn't getting aroused and needed to try Viagra to save my chances with this girl, and so I got 6 of those pills. I tried one, not really expecting it to work due to what I had heard, with how the whole PIED is a brain issue and not a blood flow issue. Lo and behold, the pills didn't work. They got my penis full of blood, but not hard enough still for sex. The thing about those pills is, they can help if you have some arousal, you're getting partial erections. They can help you get all the way and maybe get you some sexual experience, but really you don't need them. You just need time to reboot, and you need time with a woman rewiring. I took a vacation the last week of July, and I just realized this thing with this girl simply won't work right now. I can't have sex for a long time, and I can't really explain it either, and I had just relocated cities and was a few hours away, so it was over. Maybe I could rekindle something down the road when I was well, and if she was going to be closer by. It was such a hard time for me to see this girl who I liked so much, for the first time in years, or maybe ever, having that mental connection, and eventually losing her, a big part of it being due to my PIED, was devastating for me. I stopped talking to her for that reason, for the first 3 weeks of August. Okay, that's not the way to end things. For anyone out there who's considering ending a relationship, don't just stop talking to them. That's not a good way to end things. Until, I guess you could say, fate or something brought us back together. Okay. I ran into her downtown in this big city out of the blue a week and a half ago. She was visiting for a wedding and was going out with her friends, and I was out with my buddy who had been seeing her friend previously too. We ended up dancing and have a really good night. We hung out for 3 days straight after that night and had so much time to talk about where we were at and how we both didn't really think we were going to keep being a thing. I told her I never stopped liking her and thought about her a lot, and we both made it clear we wanted to be together. I realized I had to fully disclose everything to her or else it wouldn't work. So I explained what was really going on with the PIED, and that I wasn't sure when I could be a sexual partner with her. She didn't mind. She knew sex was important, but she still wanted to be with me and to help me. So we began dating last week. She said we should definitely try having sex when I felt ready, and that it was important that we do at least try down the road, and I agreed. So last week I came back to my hometown where she is going to school, and I spent a night with her. Cooked her dinner, and we did what we always do. Just hang out, talking, enjoying our time together, watched some of a movie, and decided to go to bed. We cuddled and kissed, and I told her she could touch me and just see what happens, because I was feeling a little hard. Definitely not hard enough for sex, but I was dating her now, and she knew the situation, so I wasn't worried. She gave me oral sex, and I couldn't believe it. I actually responded. I got hard. We were able to have sex. I was about 90% hard. It was the hardest I had been in years. I was so shocked that in 105 days of no PMO, that I was now capable of penetration and being sexually active. She was also thinking it was going to be much longer to wait, but it happened. She said I was totally fine hardness-wise, but I still think I could have gotten harder. I would sometimes get a little soft when trying to get inside, but I was always able to get hard enough again very quickly. We had sex twice that day and multiple times the next night and morning as well. This would not have been possible without all the information I had learned and finally quitting the porn. I know I still have more recovering to do, so I can always maintain my erections during switching positions and whatnot and be able to be totally 100% hard, but this is an amazing start. I think all the rewiring and time I spent with her played a huge role in this, as well as being straightforward and honest with her, so there wasn't any pressure to perform and she knew what was going on. I went from thinking my recovery would take months and months to having sex and losing my virginity to a girl I care about a lot in such a short period of time. Not to mention actually getting into my first relationship that is real and deeper than just a physical attraction. Porn never allowed that for me before. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Had I not been this way with her, I still wouldn't even know I was recovered enough to have sex. I always downplayed the role of rewiring and being with someone during this process, but it's apparent to me now that this was huge. I can't thank you enough for all the help you gave me with your videos, answering questions for other people, and providing resources like your book. It made such a difference for me. My life has changed so much over the past 3.5 months, I can still hardly believe it. Thank you so much, Noah. It also thrills me to know you will share my story in some way with other people who are going through the same thing. It was one of the most difficult things I've gone through in life. Sexuality is such a basic human thing that plays an important role in our lives. And when you are robbed of that, it has so many negative effects that span across all aspects of our lives. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Well, thank you, my brother, for sharing your story with us. I'm sure it resonated with a lot of people out there and answered some questions. If you have your own success story that you think could help other people through their journey, share it with me, and I might share it with everybody else. Email me at noah@addictedtointernetporn.com. Now, if you like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. I'm putting out 2 videos a week now. Look for around Monday to Thursday with a little bit of leeway either way. And go ahead and share this. We need to talk about this stuff more, so go ahead and share it with friends you think need it or could benefit from it. I'll see y'all next time. I hope y'all have a wonderful PMO-free day.